Hello. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me while I draw. Tonight, I'm working on another comic page. We're working on Age of Night, chapter 23, page 10. I adjusted my camera a little bit, so hopefully I won't hit it with my head, and you'll get a better view of what I'm working on. So let me know if this works better for you guys. Just leave a comment. Leave a comment anyway. Say hi. All right, so I already have my panels all laid out. I did not get so far as to do perspective grids this time, so I'll have to do that while I'm on the stream as I get to them. I have my thumbnails just out of frame here. This is the one I'm working on today. I also have my script, which I don't want you to read. My script is also right out of frame in case I need to reference any notes about what people are saying or doing, in case my thumbnail isn't super clear, which sometimes in my haste as I scribble them, it isn't. So we'll go ahead and get started with blocking in some stuff. I always start with word balloons first. This one has a couple up here because see right there, I would have put the top of her head too close. Sorry, as I'm first blocking these in, it's a little bit light because I try not to go too heavy-handed until I know where everything's gonna go. So we get this figure kind of blocked in here. Man, so I usually, while I'm doing these streams, I usually have like one earbud in and listen to Spotify because I can't listen to music on the, like over my speakers on the stream because then I'll get in trouble for playing other people's music, playing other people's copyrighted intellectual property on my stream, and I don't want to do that. So I don't want to have my videos yanked. So I usually have like one earbud in and I'm listening to Spotify while I'm doing this. Or, you know, half listening because obviously I'm talking too. But I was like, I want something fun and peppy. I'm going to put on an 80s playlist on Spotify. Literally the second song that's playing is Fast Car. Like one of the most depressing songs that's ever existed. Why? Why Spotify? This isn't upbeat. Dang it. Don't appreciate this downer music you're playing. All right, there's that blocked in. Got a couple more word balloons over here in the next panel. This one I could have maybe used a perspective grid in, but I can also fudge it, and that's fine. It's fine. There's not enough going on in the background that I'm too worried about it. It's just a door frame and a window frame, and as long as the figure looks like they make sense here, I'm not going to sweat it too much. Watch me completely botch it. It's kind of a strange looking pose, but this panel will make more sense later. This is this character basically like just kind of stepping back and melting into the shadows, but in the drawing phase when I'm just making a like a stick figure. It doesn't make any sense. It just looks really goofy. All right, now this panel is the one where I'm going to need a perspective grid. So give me 1 second while I break out some of these tools. I'm going to need my lovely steel 18-inch cork-backed 18-inch ruler, which, as you can tell from the amount of little scuffs and scrapes and pen marks on it, has seen a lot of use over the years, but it's still in really great shape, so I still use it all the time. I also need some drafting tape, actual drafting tape, not just regular masking tape, because drafting tape is very low tack. So unless you leave it on the paper for a really long time, you can stick it on the paper, pull it right back off. It's not going to rip the paper up. It's not going to leave a bunch of residue. If you leave it on for a super long time, it will do that. So you have to be careful if you're using it to like mask the edges of an illustration. You don't want to leave it on there for like more than a couple of days, because then when you pull it up, it will start to pull the paper, because more of that adhesive has gotten a chance, the moisture in it has gotten a chance to evaporate. The adhesive has had more time to set. So if you leave it on too long, it will act more like regular tape. But used in the short term, it's super low tack and will not cause any damage. What else do I need? I always have to prattle on like this is an educational video or something. I mean, I hope it's somewhat educational for people. All right. Also, as I dig around in my box of tools here, I've got a couple of very stumpy at this point, very stumpy little different colored coal erase pencils, different than the blue that I normally draw with. So that's what I'm going to use. Let's get that rolling. Oh, good. Now Spotify's playing something upbeat. Thanks. That's what I wanted in the first place. Now we're playing Paul Simon. I forget what the actual name of this song is. It is You Can Call Me Al. Okay, I thought it was one of those ones that had a different name. That's much more upbeat. So, what I'm going to do first is figure out where my horizon line is going to be. And according to my little sketch, it's going to want to be up here. So I'm going to do that all the way outside the panel borders, all the way to this edge of the paper, all the way to the other edge of the paper. And I'm going to mark it so I know that that's what it is. If I have more than one perspective grid on a page, then I'll start marking them like H2, H3, so I don't forget which one I'm supposed to be looking at when I'm working on a different panel. Then I get some of my tape. And what I'm going to do, okay, this is not like 100% kosher. I'm not going to even try to pretend with you here. So what I'm going to do is, since my desk has these nice straight slats of wood that it's made out of, what I do is I actually choose one of those slats of wood and I use that as my guideline. I make sure it lines up on this side. I make sure it lines up on that side. So I have a nice straight line to go off of. And then I tape my paper down so that it does not, so that now I can't wiggle it. I have a tape on either corner here so that now I can't wiggle it. I can't accidentally nudge it while I'm working on this, because then I'll lose my grid and I'll be sad. All right, so for the way that I want this to work, I'm going to need one perspective point pretty close to over here. This is almost I could get away with a 1 point, but for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to do it as 2 point. So I'm going to pick a little spot on my desk here. I actually have a little notch right there that I'm going to use as my 1 point. So I had a drafting table before this that was just like a white laminate top, and I actually had a permanent horizon line guideline that I had like drawn in marker on the drafting top. And like periodically after I worked for a while and it just kind of got worn away, or I would clean the drafting table and then it would get worn off, I would just refresh it with marker again. But now I have this lovely antique wooden drafting table, and I'm not going to lie, I abuse it a fair amount. There's little like pencil marks and dings all over this thing, but I think that's kind of, I mean, that's what this is for. That's what a drafting table is for. I don't really believe in antiques just sitting around collecting dust because they're old. It's a drafting table. Like, it wants to be used as a drafting table. That's my animist husband rubbing off on me there. All right, so there's one point. I kind of babbled on about antiques during that point, but basically you just pick that point, you keep one end of your ruler lined up on that point, and you just pivot it off of that point and make a bunch of perspective lines for that side. Now I'm doing a 2-point perspective, so I need to do another one over on this side. So I'm going to scoot this paper over. Scoot it over pretty far. Let me move some other stuff out of my way. All right. My layouts and my script were in my way on the other side. All right. Scoot it all the way over here. Okay, so now we're going to pick a point somewhere over on this side, and it's going to be much farther away than the point that was on my right. Should show up on camera as your right. I don't know. YouTube always confuses me the way they do this. But the point on the right was rather close. The point on the left I'm going to have really far so that it's skewed much more to... The whole image is skewed much more to the right, because that's what I want to happen in this panel. You'll see it'll make sense once I actually start drawing it. But anyway, I'm going to pick a point over here. I've got a little light mark. You might be able to see that on camera. I've got a little light mark in the crack there that I'm using as my horizon guide. And then I'm going to do the same thing where I'm just going to pivot off of it and then draw my line all the way through. Some of this is a little out of frame because this is part of why I don't like to do this on camera, is because it's hard to capture the whole thing in frame without being like a million miles away from the paper, which then you can't see anything else I'm working on. But I'll get recentered here once this is done. So yeah, the reason I say that using like these lines of the boards of the desk is not exactly kosher is that if you want to be like super duper precise about it, you'd be using like a square and a T-square and attaching that to the edge of the desk and using that to plot your horizon line and just to make everything as square as possible. But I still maintain that every T-square I've ever owned has not kept truly square past the first, like, I don't know, month of me owning it. Very few desks that I've ever encountered are truly square or straight on all sides. Your average piece of paper that you are drawing on is not truly square and straight on all sides. So really, me using the crack in the desk, as long as it's reasonably straight, not the worst thing in the world. I think all the rest of those things give you the illusion of being more square than they really are. Unless you're actually working with like some crazy, super maintained, engineered, like old school architectural drafting setup, which I'm not. I'm just not. All right, so now I've got my board back on here. I do put this Masonite clipped drawing board on top of my nice antique wooden desk because sometimes the amount of like texture and like big gaps like this that come through, which I could probably, if I wanted to, completely sand this down and refinish it and putty in all those gaps and everything, but I like it the way it is, and I can just put my Masonite board on top of it and still have a nice smooth surface to go underneath my paper while enjoying my nice wooden antique desk. So that's how I roll that. That's how I make that work. All right, so now I have my perspective grid there, and I've yammered on excessively about it. And now I can actually plot out what's going to be happening here, which is I have a pretty good sized word balloon here. I'm going to move that up a little bit. I don't quite like where that is. I've got this part of this building here. There's another edge of a different building over here. I've got that doorway we just saw. Actually, I'm going to move that. I'm going to scoot that doorway in just a little bit so that you see the whole thing, so that it still visually like connects as being the same doorway. Doorway. Windows. And then over here. So let's see. So this also, the grid can also help with this, which is, so the doorway is about this tall. We can see where this character's height, how, like what kind of proportion of shorter than the door frame she was, which is about like this. So we can know that following that horizon line, then another character of a similar height should also come up to, if you follow that line down, about that point. Oh, hey, look, it's a cat. Gee, I wonder who that could be. A small cat. That's actually probably going to be a pretty large speech bubble there, so we'll just increase that there a little bit. All right. And then we've got another pretty good-sized speech bubble down here. And one that's kind of a panel border breaker right there. This is always such a challenge when I'm trying to get Drake in a panel with anybody. It's like he's a cat. He comes up to what? Somebody's knee? Like I push cheating on that really, really hard. Like I will cheat that. I cheat that so hard. Like he is sometimes easily like a 2.5 foot tall cat. That as long as it's like somewhat within the bounds of believability, where you don't like immediately look at it, like as long as he's not like horse sized and you immediately look at it and go, that's not right. But he's definitely been like beagle sized in some of these panels, just because it's so hard to get him in a panel with another character and have them be able to talk to each other, because he's on the ground and he's a cat. All right, so her knees are right there, so his head coming up to right here is acceptable. Oh my god, a ladybug just hit me in the head. No, be gone. And now I managed to hit the camera anyway because I'm trying to get the ladybug out of my hair. All right, there's his head. I don't like how that looks. We're going to say that the leg that's closer to us is the one that's forward and the one that's further away is back, so that her arm can be back because it looks goofy with it being forward. Just makes her look really unbalanced, even though, yes, there would be a point in her stride where it would look like that if she's gesturing with one hand while she's walking and talking, but it looks dumb and I don't like it. I don't like it. Sometimes you have to sacrifice accurate for looks better. All right, and then again, that doorway. You can see her crossing in front of it now. And then we've got a fun panel. We've got hands coming out of the darkness and attacking. And then last panel, we'll sketch in real quick. Angry kitty reaction shot. Okay, so I've got everything roughed in at this point. Taking a sip of tea before I proceed. Sharpening my pencil. Oh my goodness, and then I end up with little bits of pencil shaving everywhere. Okay, I'm going to try not to get my head in frame while I'm working on this. So now I think my head's staying out of frame. Let me know if my head gets in frame. Kind of just sketch in some of the features a little more lightly before I firm them up, especially because some of them are going to end up getting obscured by this hood. Hood on this cloak. Realize that in the roughed in, that side of the hood is slightly ridiculously huge. So I'm going to tone that down just a tiny bit here. All right. Making some progress here. I can erase some of this underdrawing. This is another reason why I leave a lot of that initial sketching super light, because I needed to know where all her limbs were to make that shape correctly. But ultimately, it's just going to get erased because all we're going to see is the cloak. I'm not crazy about how that hand came out, but you know what? We're gonna leave it be for right now. I might loop back around and try to make it less goofy looking. I'm really not crazy about it. But sometimes you just need to move on and swing back around to something later. This is all going to be darkness. I'm not going to go crazy trying to fill in every little bit of that because I'm just going to cover it up with ink, but that'll remind me that it is going to be covered up with ink. All right. Sharpen my pencil before I move on to the next panel. What's the time look like? Time looks like I've been at this for a little over half an hour, so making good progress here. I spent an awful lot of time just talking about the third panel. So, you know, not as far along as I normally would be under the circumstance. But that's okay. Did I hit the camera? I hit the camera cord with my head. I'm sorry. All right. Is my head starting to... Oh, yeah, just barely. Okay, I'll try to be conscientious of that. I'll try to lean back. I shouldn't be leaning that far onto my paper anyway. It's not good for my back. You know what I should do? Is I should put on my reading glasses so that I'm not as tempted to lean forward. Because it will appear closer to me. There we go. That's much better. All right. Oh, what did I give her? I gave her some kind of brooch. I forget what it looked like. I'm just going to put a circle there for right now, and I'll look it up later. All right. So... So I'm trying to make these shadows kind of overtaking a lot of her figure because the idea is that she is slipping into the shadows here. So there would be more hood here, but it's in the shadows. So trying to make these shadows a little bit bigger than they normally would be so that her figure looks like it's disappearing. So kind of as I'm getting very quiet and concentrating here. It'll probably still look kind of goofy in pencil, and hopefully I'll pull it off in ink. Hopefully in ink it'll be like, oh, okay, yes, I see what we're doing. So that's the idea. Hopefully it actually looks that way when I do it in ink and doesn't just look silly. Window next to it. So that's two panels down, 40 minutes in. We're getting there. It looks like this page is overall actually going to be a little bit less strenuous to draw in ink than some of the other ones have been lately. This chapter's been a bear to draw, let me tell you. It's been a real bear to ink. All this architecture and lots of architecture, lots of stone textures, lots of nighttime heavy shadows. Been a thing. Tighten up all these windows so that they are the right fairly uniform size and shape. These itty bitty figures over here. Some more windows in this one over here. There we go. All right. So that's pretty much that panel. It's pretty straightforward. It's going to be a lot of just shadow and texture type thing. That one's going to be less than fun to ink. Oh my God. I just sent my microphone. I'm sorry. That probably sounded horrible. I just sent my microphone flying. I'm going to put some tape on your legs and hope you don't do that again. Good grief. Okay, let's try this again without knocking our microphone for a spin if we can. Just a disaster. Get that neck scruff under control there, Drake. There we go. I'm scooting down out of frame again. Okay. I need to sharpen my pencil. I feel like I made the ball of her nose a little too high right there. Since her head is tilted down slightly, it would be a little bit lower. All right, there's her face. Gotta get her hairline in here. All right, we're getting the sleeve in. Necklace kind of bopping out in front here. Oh yeah, now we started Rock the Casbah. Yes, now I'm going to be bopping while I'm working. You can't resist this song even if you want to. I apologize, I can't share these with you. I just really don't want to get in trouble. I don't want my videos taken down and getting angry emails from YouTube. You can't be playing other people's music. I've actually known it to happen to people. I'm not being completely paranoid. It is a thing. I keep saying I need to make like a classical playlist so that they'll be like, well, you know what? Screw you. You can't get me in trouble. It's public domain. But to like have playing over the speakers here, but I keep telling myself I'm going to do that, and then I don't do it because I can never be that prepared and think that far ahead. Of course not. All right, some of this drapery going here where she's walking. pencil's all dull again, and I want to finish her hand without it being all dull and sad. Sharpen that up a little bit. All right. That is an ugly hand. What is with me tonight? Why can't I draw hands? What's going on? I'm going to have to mulligan on every hand I've drawn so far this evening. Just on the struggle bus tonight, I guess. All right. All right. So let's see. What time are we at? We're at 54 minutes. Oh my goodness. We're in the last 5-ish minutes of this. I usually only keep these streams to about an hour so that it's not like I'm here yammering at you all night. You can go on and do other things. I can get up and take a break, so on and so forth. So while I work on this panel right here, I will go over all of the things that I need to go over. So in case you missed it or didn't realize or whatever else, I'm Amanda Call, and what I'm working on here is my webcomic Age of Night, which you can find for free on ageofnight.com. Updates with a new comic page every Wednesday. I am currently working on chapter 23. This is a few pages ahead of where we're at online right now. I think we're on page 5 online right now, 5 or 6. So this is a little ways ahead. You'll see it posting online in like a month or so. So yeah, you can read the comic for free at ageofnight.com. You can also, if you want to help support my comic making efforts, you can support me on Patreon. That's patreon.com/ageofnight. And that, by the way, is AGEOFNIGHT, like the time of day. Patrons get to see all sorts of cool behind the scenes stuff. They get to see other projects I'm working on besides Age of Night, and they always get their Age of Night pages a week ahead of everybody else. So we're on page 5 on the website. We're on page 6 for Patreon. It's pretty cool. You get free comics for signing up for my Patreon. It's great. All sorts of cool stuff that I was going totally off where it didn't belong. What else? You can also find me on Twitter at Age of Night. You can find me on Instagram at Amanda Call Art. That's my name with the word art after it, all one word. Where you can see stuff that I'm working on and my lunch and things I bake sometimes. You know how Instagram is. And if you enjoy watching me do these streams where I work on artwork, then you can always subscribe to this YouTube channel and make sure you hit the notification bell thingy so that it tells you when I go live so you don't miss it, because I have small children and life, so I don't do this on as regular a schedule as I might like, but I usually stream about once a week. And if you like this video, hit like, because then other people might get to see it and enjoy it as well. So those are, I think, all the things. Oh, I usually tell people too what my upcoming convention and event appearances are, and I currently have no idea what any of that is going to be. As of right now, nothing that I am scheduled for this year has been canceled because it's all at least a couple months out yet, but I have zero faith in this point that is going to remain the case. So we'll see what happens. I'm just going to say I'll see ya sometime. I'll see you sometime. Where are we at? Oh, we're just about done. I'm not going to quite finish this panel, but that's okay. So in this time, we'll leave it with this one little hair where we're going to leave that one. So it's been about an hour. I went from just some panels to having 1, 2, 3, 4 panels completed. 2, a good start. Neither of those is going to take me terribly long to finish. And yeah, that is going to be it for this week. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and bye.